107.1 WHJB. The Collision Shoppe by Jason Mignogna's high school football preview show. For the next 60 minutes, our WHJB announcers will preview the up-and-coming season, decipher the matchups, talk about the coaches, the players, and more. The Collision Shoppe by Jason Mignogna's high school football preview show is brought to you by The Collision Shoppe by Jason Mignogna, by Car Care One, Roundhouse Pizza, also by The Stereo Shop, by Allied Milk Producers, Apple Ridge Stone, Benoni and Company, by Stanwood Area Federal Credit Union, also by Excella Health and the Nutrition Group. And now, the Collision Shoppe by Jason Mignogna's high school football preview show on 107.1 WHJB.
Welcome to the first Collision Shoppe by Jason Mignogna high school football preview show here on WHJB as we get ready for tomorrow night's opening night week 0 games. Of course, our game here on WHJB will be the rivalry game, Hempfield and Greensburg-Salem over at Spartan Stadium, as we'll have a 6:30 airtime and a 7 o'clock kickoff. Mike Zappone and Jimmy Lee Santorella joined by a host of our local coaches here, many of whom we have their games at different times during the course of the season. To my left over here in our studios here in Greensburg is Roy Hall, head coach of Jeanette Jayhawks. Greg Botta, of course, entering his 26th season as the head coach at Franklin Regional. We've got John Ruane, the head coach at Penn Trafford. Tom McIntyre, who's the defensive coordinator over at Mount Pleasant. We have a Mount Pleasant game this year, Jimmy Lee, as they will have their game against North Catholic later on in the season. We've got Dave Kiefer from Greensburg-Salem and, of course, Rich Bowen from the Hempfield Spartans. So thank you guys all. I know it's been a busy week of practices as we're recording this on the first week of contact and practices, and a week ahead of the airing of this show, just in case any news happens over the course of the next week ahead. We know that coming in, but we appreciate everybody coming in because I know you guys have long days, and this is crunch time for you, getting into your first scrimmages and then into the first game week of the season. So I guess the first thing I want to start out with is we've got so much great experience in this room, and does it ever change the excitement level when the first day comes of contact? They're all pointing to Botta because, of course, he loves contact, he loves Oklahoma, he loves all that stuff.
That's exactly right. The reason why they're pointing to me is because I started earlier, that's all. You know, our guys, and I got Andrew over here who's I heard just working for you. We start at 6 a.m. and you know, we've done that for, I guess, 10 years now. And we get right into it right away and, you know, try to establish that this is what the game's about, because you have a lot of guys for the first time coming out playing at this level, and you see if they're, you know, ready to play. So we start early in the morning, Monday morning. So
he's easily the earliest morning one? I know everybody.
Oh, we early morning, 7:30.
So Hempfield, you guys go in there 7:30 weight room.
Yeah.
Everybody else early, late.
I think most guys try to get that morning way. Greg, I think, is the extremist in terms of getting in early. I commend him for getting guys out of bed that early. I think that's challenging, but you know, I think most of us try to get started between 7 and 8 o'clock. That way we get that heat out of the way, and that way you can deviate what you want to do throughout the course of the day.
Well, Greg, if you guys start at 6, what time are you showing up to the field?
I get up at 4:40, and I'm there at 5. And then I know a lot of guys have their meeting times and such, film time afterwards. I mean, beforehand, we do it afterwards after we come in. So we'll film a session and come in and go to breakfast down Eden Park first, and then we'll come back and have meeting time, film time, and then get out the second time about 10:30. Kids are home probably about 2:30, 3. And I find out they like that. The parents like it too because they're in bed by 5 or 6, you know. So it works out real well.
So we talk about contact, and everybody's got different philosophies on how you guys approach it now, and especially it's such a hot button topic. Some go into still doing Oklahoma drills, I know, and some you're doing situational. Maybe we'll just run around the table and kind of see what your philosophy is on it and how you guys handle that first week of contact and how you kind of balance it out, because there is something you learn from those encounters early on in camp. So Roy, I know you do something similar to Oklahoma, but you make the matchups, I know.
Yes, I make the matchup. We would call it a spirit drill, which I match guys up with each other and go, we can't do a whole lot of hitting, seeing what our numbers aren't big. We don't want to take a big chance of constantly hitting. to lose some players, because actually we lost our starting tackle. First day, second play of the game, he sprained his ankle. So we try to balance that out pretty good. But you do want to see who your hitters are. So.
And you went with a couple of your senior. You it's by design. You
Yes.
get some of your experienced guys right out of the gate,
yes,
right?
Yes, because that sets the tempo.
You went with Justin Kramer and Crutchman, right?
Yes.
Greg, you do Oklahoma's right out of the gate?
They probably get 2 to 3 contacts during that 20-minute period. So they're not out. You do a lot of hitting. You really don't. You get a couple hits. And we do Oklahoma first day, Alabama the second. The third day we do a spider drill, but it's limited to 20 minutes, maybe 3 reps maximum for each player. And then we just, like Roy was saying, see who our players are and who's ready to play at the level in this type of game.
John, how do you guys approach it at Penn Trafford?
It's basically the only week we're live in practice all year. So once the season hits, I mean, we don't bring anyone down in practice for the moment. We thought we wrap up. Our starting defense will bring some guys down a little bit, but we try to go live minus leg tackling. We don't want guys getting hit on the knees, but we definitely have to see the guys can take a hit, how to take a hit without coughing up the football, and then the guys would obviously make a tackle. But when the pads go on, you need to gauge who's going to be physical. This week is a good week for that, but like I said, starting next week, I mean, we're not going to see that in practice. I mean, it's going to be game nights only, basically. So it's an important judgment week.
Tom, being a defensive coordinator over at Mount Pleasant, what do you guys do? What's your philosophy?
We actually, the past 2 years prior to this, we got away from the Oklahoma drill and didn't do it, and it had nothing to do with the drill, but I mean, we dealt with a lot of injuries, especially last year. I think at one point we had like 20 kids that weren't dressed for a game. And, like John said, we know who our athletes are and we see what they do throughout the summer, but the Oklahoma drill brings a certain bit of intensity that we don't really see kind of in a lot of other drills that we do just in our individual period or group periods. And so we got back into it this year. We had some good competition, kids battling for certain positions. Really, I think I know our starting safety this year as a freshman wasn't much of a tackler. Getting into drills like this, he brings out the best in some kids. You start to see that they have some ability that they didn't even know they had once it's turned up a little bit for them. So we did our Oklahoma drill this year, short period. Like Coach Hall, we had our matchup set before we went. We know who was going to go against who. Never put a kid, in a matchup that we don't think that he can handle. And it was a great period for us. I think we got a lot out of it. We filmed it. We were able to watch it and kind of break it down among the coaches and with the kids. So definitely think it was a good thing for us. And we got some contact in this week. Once we go past this week, not a ton. We'll be hitting to the thud too. Hopefully not many kids on the ground. It's nice during this week to be able to see a little bit of that and see that intensity among our own guys before we get out competing against other schools.
Dave Kiefer over at Greensburg, I know some of it is numbers based, making sure you have the right numbers and you don't want to get into too much of an injury issue, but you also believe you do a little more situational type stuff?
Yeah, I mean, we talk to the kids a lot about, and I'm sure with some of the stuff we're all saying, and somewhere along the way, every one of us says a lot of the same things because we all have a lot of the same values. We've had a lot of the conversations and how we do it, and I know we've had different conversations as how much contact is there, how much contact there should there not be. I look at it this way: when we go into our camp week, we're going to find out what kind of football team we have at the end of that week. We want to be a physical football team, and we want to instill that physicality throughout the course of the week. We start off with that goal line period because we really feel that's a big part of what we've got to continue to improve upon and get better at. And we try to put the matchups together in terms of from a team perspective as opposed to an individual perspective. But when we structure our practices, and I'm sure everybody's the same, if we go a contact period, we always try to follow it up with some form of an instructional period or a period where we're on pads or where we minimize the contact, so it's not a back-to-back period of contact. We actually will get them out and like this year, we started out with the pursuit drill on defense and then went right into goal line because I like the kids to get a sweat crack before we go right into the collision part of it. I think it's really important you instill the value of the physicality of the sport. That has not changed at all. People talk about football changing. The physicality has not gone away. It's how do you find a way as a coach to instill that in your players. So we really try to sell them on the fact that, we want to start the week out right. And I'll be dead honest with you. If you're not ready to come out and hit on Monday morning after a week long of non-contact, then there's something wrong with you. You don't have that drive to really want to be a football player. So we do it situationally, want to get it cranked up and get it revving in a little bit different way. We do some other situations where we'll do an on-the-line drill where we'll match it up and we'll take the place of our inside drill later on in the week. And we try to instill some of those contact drills throughout the course of the week, kind of like what Roy said with the spirit drill, and put it into practice when we feel we need to kind of pick up the tempo of our practice. And sometimes it's just spur of the moment, and I'll say, okay, let's line it up, and we'll start going with it. And I already have my matchups in my head of who I want to see, but I think we need to kind of, put in a little bit of intensity to the practice point because it's dropped off. So, be a little spontaneous with it, but also plan it out.
Rich, at Hempfield?
We start every practice with a circle in the middle of the field, one-on-ones. We call the kids out for that. But other than Oklahoma, we don't do that. We do a hoot and holler drill. And it's 3-on-3, 10 yards. You get 3 tries to score, and we make the matchups, and the kids like that. It's hard anymore. I mean, it's a violent game we teach, and we got to limit our tackling. And I don't know how to get better at tackling other than tackling a live body. And
you're listening to the Collision Shoppe by Jason Mignogna, high school football preview show here on WHJB. We were talking about contact, and you talk about, there are great athletes, and then there's just football players. You can tell somebody that's got the athletic ability but maybe isn't into the contact aspect of it. From your experience, it probably happens every year. There's a guy that surprises you because he thrives on that contact in game type situations.
We always say, it's football in t-shirts and shorts, but we want to see you in the pads. And like you do when you play and you get in the pads, you see who's your player. Like we had this one kid just came out, it's a sophomore, he's about 6'2", 245. And he hadn't played in 3 years, and he's actually in our starting lineup already. His name is Justin Shank, so nice sized boy.
So 3 semifinal teams last year in this county. What's the state of Westmoreland County high school football right now?
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I do. I think we got great coaches. I've been doing this. This is my 28th year as a head coach, 31 overall. We play Greensburg-Salem. We open up a scrimmage with John at Penn Trafford, and just seeing the great coaches we have. And I think the football was great out here. These last 8 years at Hempfield, I've really enjoyed because of the good group of people we have out here in Westmoreland County.
A lot of it product as well with the fact that you guys have really gotten organized together as a coaching group too, with association.
The guys around this table, when it goes to all the Westmoreland County coaches, and Larry Salito is the head of the Westmoreland County coaches, and we do a lot of things together. We go to meetings, we got to know each other. We all have the same philosophy. I think Dave said that we care about kids. And that's what it's about. With that, teach the game of football and hopefully learn a lot of life's lessons through the game of football. My kids would play for anybody in this room. There's no doubt in my mind. I'd be honored to have any one of these guys as coaches, and they're there for the right reasons, and we all want to win. There's no doubt about it. I want to beat John as badly as he wants to beat me. And that one night, we'll go out and shake hands and we'll get it on. But my son would play for him in a heartbeat, as well as Roy or anybody else around this table. And, and that's what it's about. That they're in good hands, learn the game of football and learning life's lessons.
Well, let's get into, because we've got to get into a little bit of each one of your teams here. So let's start out with Class Single A. Let's start out with the Jeanette Jayhawks, Roy Hall. 10-0 regular season last year. Didn't end the way you wanted to in the semifinal against Rochester. What did you take? What do you take and carry over from that? And what's kind of the bitter taste that you carry through the off season that for a group that's had so much success, obviously?
Well, I think sometimes when you have a lot of success and you beat a team, sometimes the kids feel like I'll give you an example. When we played Our Ladies of Sacred Heart, we put it on them, and they were ranked pretty high. And then Our Ladies of Sacred Heart beat Rochester early in the year. So I'm thinking that our kids felt that because we beat Rochester. Because we beat Our Ladies of Sacred Heart, that we could beat Rochester, and I think we went in that game pretty flat, and they put it on us. They beat us 27-0. There's a lesson to be learned, which I've been preaching to the kids this week all the time, because you have to respect your opponents. And so I constantly preach that, no matter what the record is, constantly respect your opponents, and just be ready to play. Take them one game at a time.
You guys were fortunate that you lost a good group of players from that state championship team, but still had a good core from that group last year, and now you lose a little bit more of that group going into this year. Is this the youngest you guys have been probably in the last few years that you can remember?
This is be my 10th year as head coach, my 34th year overall at Jeanette. This is probably one of the most talented group of younger kids that I have. Now, with that being said, some of them expect to just step in and play right away or start right away. And I had to give them a little tongue lashing about that. You got to earn your way. And it was nice to hear some of the older guys told them, welcome to high school football, because they was playing midgets last year. They had a pretty good team, so they got to earn their way. But I would say we have 2 of our freshmen are probably in the top 5 fastest kids on our team. So it's very exciting. I can't wait to strap it on and play a game.
You guys have generally, as I've looked at it, you've had pretty even numbers from class to class over the last few years.
Yes.
So it's pretty similar that way? You've been able to keep that steady
Yes,
flow of
yes,
kids?
Yes, it is.
So tell me, what's the quarterback position look like without Seth Howard?
Well,
Before that, Robert Kennedy.
we have a kid in there, James
Sanders, yeah.
He's short, but he throws the ball nice. He got pretty good speed, and we have another kid that's backing him up. But I think we're pretty good at quarterback. We'll run the ball, and he can throw the ball a little bit. He has to get outside to throw it because he's a little short there.
You still return your pretty solid core on your lines. Crutchman obviously
Yes.
is one. How's your lines look on both sides? Because they've been a strength for the last 2 years.
They are, I think they are, but we had a kid that didn't come out. He started for us the last 2 years, made first team all conference, which is unheard of for us, and he didn't come out. He lost interest in it. I mean, I went and sat down, talked with him and his father, and asked him, but I told him point blank, if you don't want to be there, I don't want you there, but I do want you, but he didn't come out, and that's going to hurt. But I think this week we've got to get a line together and be pretty good, and I'm kind of excited about it. We got some younger guys, but we got some older guys that will help them tutor them along, so I'm pretty excited to see us.
So tell me about Justin Kramer and how much you're going to miss him after this year.
Like I said it was in the paper today. I don't think we've ever had a freshman, especially a linebacker, start for 4 years for us. I mean, he started a true freshman at linebacker. He's a leader. I always say Russell's made really good football players, so he's a real good player. By the way, I'm being asked the question. So.
There you go.
So Jackson Pruitt on the outside. What else, when you look at some of your playmakers on the outside, what are some of the names that we should be watching for?
Well, you got Jackson Pruitt. You have Bailey Malters, which he's about 6'4". He's about 200 pounds. He's a wide receiver. He got decent speed. We got Amani Sanders in the backfield. He made all conference first team running back. He's pretty good in the backfield. And we got some younger guys out on the wide side that are going to stand up for us, I believe.
Who's somebody that's making a name for themselves that we haven't seen yet?
This kid is Justin Shank. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a sophomore, and he hadn't played in 2 or 3 years, and I mean, I'm really excited about it, him playing. I mean, because he's cracking heads.
What are some of the things, when you have success, you obviously want to continue what's gotten you there. But you also, I'm sure you guys are adjusting every single year, and without giving away what the secrets are, what are things that you've looked at over the off season, and things that you've little tweaks and things that you've whether it's the approach you take or different things that you're doing with your guys?
I think a lot of it's mental, because some of the things, like I said, and I'm sure some of these guys can admit to that, they think because you beat this team, then you can beat that team. And sometimes, honestly, we tell them, sometimes they think because they walk out there and they got genetics about their thing, teams are going to roll up. They're not. They want to be the team to knock you off. And that happens every year. So we kind of beat that in their head that, everybody's out to knock you off. And that's true. I mean, you can have a team with a 0-7 record. They play, they're going to give you their best game. So we got to prepare for that week in and week out.
So obviously everybody looks ahead and they see Clareton.
Yes.
Who else are you looking at besides Clareton?
Well, you got Clareton, you got Amani Christian, but you never know from one year to the next what players you're going to have on there. So we just got to be ready. Got to take it one at a time.
So tell me, when you look at you had Otterly and Sacred Heart, you're going to play them again this year.
Yes.
It turned out to be, that was the team to beat at the end of the season. What is the current state when you look at single A football? Is it top heavy? Do you like the depth right now in the classification, or?
Well, I would say our conference, Eastern Conference, is probably one of the toughest ones, because other than this year, the past 5 years, the WPIL champ came out of our conference, and it's pretty balanced. Clareton, they own single A. I mean, we got the opportunity to beat them a couple years ago, and they would say, "Hey, you finally got that monkey off your back." I said, it wasn't a monkey, that was a gorilla. So
yeah, right.
we were 0-6 against them, so it was really nice to be able to beat them the last 2 times we played them.
And now you got turf.
Yes.
That's going to be what everybody's talking about, and that's never happened, right? And we saw the way it ended last year. It was a quagmire last year.
Well, thank God that Bone and Henfield over there, they've been very gracious to us, not just to play our first playoff game out there, but a lot of our playoff games, we went over there 2 or 3 times a week and practiced, and they were gracious enough to let us go out there, and they were very good to us, so we really appreciate that, but we're really glad to tell them we no longer will need them. Thanks, see you later.
Something like that actually brings some excitement to, I mean, it's nice to see the investment back into the program. And
we got Tom Palone over there. He's been around a lot longer than I am. True Jayhawk fan. And I've never thought in my lifetime it would happen. But one thing for sure to say is the football field, but they're letting us know it's a sports complex.
Right.
Because, you know what I mean?
Greg Botta, back for number 26. Wasn't as sure this time.
No, it's something that's in the air every year.
Do you ever wonder, I mean, I know you wonder when that time is right, but also, do you ever wonder what it'll be like not getting up at 4:40 in the morning?
Well, I come over and see these guys and bother them, and it's time, and it's getting closer. I really enjoy it, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, right.
There's nothing like preparation for a game for Friday night and the rivalries that we've created amongst each other, and just the camaraderie that it's nice to go to the meetings with these guys. And I got a son on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, and I have no family around here, so I got to make some hardcore decisions when the season's over.
Last year, 6-3 regular season, beat Bethel Park in the playoffs. Of course, ran into Gateway, but played a little bit better the second time around against Gateway.
A lot better, really. I take full blame for the first time around, and the defense coordinator and I went into the game and we knew what kind of talent they had, and what we prepared was probably the worst defensive game plan you could have. And when things started snowballing, I'm sure every one of us have been in those games, that it's tough to stop the avalanche, and it avalanched hard. The first half had a score called back, and if it would have counted, it may have been a different game, but that's a truly talented team. They got another one coming back, very strong.
So obviously we wouldn't be talking about one of your teams if you didn't have a tackle machine in the middle of your defense. You guys seem to just churn them out on a year-by-year basis, and this year again with Justin Johns has a chance to kind of jump over Bryce Lauer. If he duplicates last season, he'll be the all-time tackle leader at Franklin Regional. Tell me about Justin, and tell me about the type of player and the leader that he is.
He's a lot like Kramer is. I mean, those guys are 2 all started as a freshman, so you have to be an asterisk by that because Lauer didn't start until sophomore year. Mm-hmm. So, but Justin's really, he's high on trying to break the record, but he's a 4.2 GPA. He's a tremendous individual, comes from a great family. The older one played for me, the younger one, he's a tough player. Colton, he's 6'2", 215 now, and it's a great family.
He's on the outside, right?
He's on the outside, and I coached the dad at Penn Hills, which shows my age, but just a great family, and love coaching those boys. But he's the leader of the defense, and another kid who was hurt last year was started, and he's going to try to make up lost time, is Brocco Block. Mm-hmm. He tore a muscle off his hip and didn't play at all last year, so him and Justin are going at it, and that was our first 2 on Oklahoma. So and it was evenly matched, but he's ready to play some football too. But you need a leader on the defense, as all these guys will attest to, and Justin's the one who makes the calls and makes the adjustments, and he's smart enough to not make too many mistakes.
How do you guys find that type of player every single year?
I don't know.
I mean, some of it's development.
Well, it is development, and it's the idea of getting. And I think one of the hardest jobs we have as a staff is put the kid in the right position for himself and for the team. And we're constantly moving kids around. And I lost all my skilled people last year. I lost my quarterback, and now we have a good 6 or 7 receivers and defensive backs that are actually, it's the best competition I've ever had in all my years there. And they're all, when I talked to the defensive back coaches tonight, and we were talking about how it's going to be a game-to-game decision on which one to start. So what that creates is great competition throughout the week, and then they're the hardest working group of kids we have right now because they know the competition, and everyone wants to start.
What's the best compliment somebody can give you about your team? When you're talking, if you run into John during the season, you guys play, and he gives you a compliment about your team, what's the best thing you can hear about your group of kids?
I think 2 things we all want to hear about our team, and I think physicality and being prepared. And like I said, we blew it against Gateway first time around, but these guys are great coaches. You coach against John, you coach against Hall, and Miller over McKeesport. You're playing some great football teams with great talent, with great coaches, not just the head coach, but the staff. And preparation's a key, and we all know that. And we know what we each other does, and once in a while, they throw a wrinkle away. But you got to be able to stop what they do, and put the kids in the best position to win football games. And that is all our job, is getting time spent to prepare and get the kids ready to go with some confidence on the kickoff.
offensively, you guys really came together as the season went along. I mean, you really started to put up 56 against Bethel Park. What happened over the course of the season, and how's that carry into this year?
I think there's a lot of different reasons why. I mean, like I said, game preparations, making the right calls. You know, we got to be smart enough to know there's certain things we can run against certain defenses. Quarterback got smarter as the year went on. Adam Brzezinski did a good job, seeing what he could check out of when he needed to be and what to run if we had to. Making plays. We all have playmakers. And told the team today, I said, you offensive linemen, God bless you. The only pat you're going to get in the back is from me and your line coaches. You other guys are going to get your name in the paper. You're the playmakers. They got to make the plays to win football games. And that's been the format for ever since football's been around. And you got to have those kids, and a new quarterback, Trevor Brinzik, he's gonna be learning as he goes along as a junior. First time he didn't get much playing time last year, but he has a lot on his shoulders. And I told him the most important thing for him is decision making. Mm-hmm. You've got to make the right decisions. You've got to know when to pull it, when to give it, when to throw that window and whatnot. So, that's what we got to be ready for.
We talked about Johns. We talked about Colton Johns. We talked, Anthony Bonacci up front on your line. Nice big player up on the front of your offensive line. Where is the strength of your team right now as you're going into the end of camp here?
Well, going into it, I thought, and I went to the power game in the off season simply because we have the line back. I lost my big tackle. I don't know whether you heard or not, Jake Painter, because of a car accident. I had 2 3-year starters back and 2 2-year starters back on the offensive line. That's all we want is his experience. I lost him for the season. He was in a bad car accident and he pulled through, thank God. And he's still on the sidelines. Probably lost 50 pounds. He was in ICU for a week, but it was a lesson learned, and he survived it. And I know I was with his parents throughout that ordeal, and it was heartbreaking. So we got to fill that position. A kid named Alex Hutchko is coming on. He understands his role. So he'll be a first-year starter now. But that was going to be our strength, and they're still working hard to do it. But I would have to say our defensive front seven is where our strength would be.
Where's your concern going in, obviously?
Well,
experience.
Quarterback number one with a lack of experience. I know he has Gabe back, and having a quarterback back, I think it may be his 2.5 years starting back there. And that's extremely important, especially at that position. And all new wide receivers, so it's going to be a learning curve for those guys. Defensively, with the front four, with Pelusi, and I got another kid who just came in. I'm not going to talk too much about him and see what he does. He's a big boy. He came in from New Jersey. No, I didn't recruit him. He's making a name for himself right now. He played in 8th grade, and he's a designated hitter on a baseball team. But he's a big boy and moves like a deer. So we'll see what he does. But Benacki and Pelusi, the freshman, was a 330. He's getting better too. I think the front seven should be decent.
John Ruane, I think, is saying that you were waiting at the border, the Penn Township, Murraysville border, and intercepted the parents when they were looking at houses.
I didn't talk to you about the kid I got from Texas. I'm telling you the truth. I got
Well, thank you. That's Franklin Regional Coach Greg Botta talking about his team going into this 2020 season. We're going to take a quick break here on the Collision Shoppe by Jason Mignogna High School Football Preview Show. When we come back, we'll talk about the Penn Trafford Warriors and the Mount Pleasant Vikings. That'll be coming up next on WHJB. Welcome back to the Collision Shoppe by Jason Mignogna High School Football Preview Show. Mike Zappone, Jimmy Lee Santorella, and of course tomorrow night we start the high school football season, Hempfield and Greensburg Salem. Week 2, we see week 1, whatever they call it, but it's the second game of the year. It's Penn Trafford and Gateway over at Penn Trafford as we see the new turf over at Warrior Stadium. John Ruane, the head coach of the Warriors, is with us now. Last year, you had a younger team last year, but still you managed to finish one game out of first in the conference, make it to the playoffs, lost a thriller at the end, Peters Township. The upside of that is now you've got an experienced group this year, and you got to feel pretty good coming into it.
Yeah, we do. Without question, experience is, in my opinion, the most important thing in high school football. We showed our inexperience early last year. We struggled badly in our opener at Norwin with a lot of pre-snap penalties, a lot of turnovers, block punt. A lot of uncharacteristic things. And we got better at all that stuff as the year went on. So, you hope with a veteran group you go into the year and you can eliminate a lot of that stuff, especially early. And and we have to. Our schedule is really difficult early with Norwin Gateway. We play Collinsville and then McKeesport in Massillon, Ohio. So we really have to be at our best early in the season if we want to have any chance of winning our conference.
Particularly up on the lines, you guys are always been a strength of your program. In many ways, I feel like that's why you've been able to have success against McKeesport and some of the different types of offenses you see is that you're so strong up front.
First time ever we've had all 5 linemen returning on our offensive line and 3 defensive linemen. We run a 3 front, so every one of our linemen has started now 4 seasons. So, and a couple of them started for 2 years now. So, without question, there's no hiding it. I mean, that's where you have success if you want to run the offense that we run, and certainly the defense with a 3-man front. They better be real good. Our line coaches, the 2 guys that have been with me from day one, Dave Ruby, offensive line, and Dan Tarabella, defensive line. You won't see 2 guys with better work ethic that instill fundamentals, toughness, foot speed, smarts, instincts, etc. That those 2 guys put in our linemen. So they deserve a ton of credit for that as well. I mean, we have really good, hardworking kids that are really athletic guys, which I think fits our mold.
So tell me about Cheplik, Schmidt, Derek Sutherland.
We have athletes up front, and I think that's the best thing we have is guys that can not only block guys at the line of scrimmage, but they're able to get 2 linebackers 5 yards down the field, or even a safety, and in some cases 15 yards down the field and get on a guy. They are athletes. So Derek Sutherland's one of the best athletes we've ever had up front. I mean, he can run like a tight end or an H-back. Josh Cheplik has been a 3-year starter now and is a beast. He's put on some good solid muscle again this year and just looks dynamite right now. And Dylan Schmidt has been a 2-year starter, so this will be his third year starting 2 ways. Just tough, just a mean streak to him, and somebody we rely on heavily, obviously. You know, Peyton Kelly starts at defensive end. He's back this year. A guy that was a converted tight end and H-back and actually played running back as a midget 9th grade football player and just, put on some size and plays defensive end. He does it at a great level. Michael Ritter started last year at guard. Anthony Youngo started at guard. Those are 2 guys that can really move. They played multiple sports, and we really like our athleticism up front. We also have a kid that's a junior who we think is going to be awesome, and he is a behemoth. Rob Bartram, he's 6'5" and about 285 pounds, and very good athlete as well.
It's nice to go in the year knowing your quarterback. Certainly having a 1,300-yard rusher back there as well, and Caleb Lisbon and Gabe Dunlap at quarterback.
Gabe obviously didn't start our first game last year, but came in and almost played Superman to bring us back. We came up just short. We were down 24-0. We inserted him, and we made it 30-28 within 2 quarters. We kind of learned that night that what this guy can do, and that's improvise. Our line coach loves him because even if the linemen get beat, he seems to make up for it with some outstanding running. He's certainly improved as a passer in the offseason, certainly improved on his athleticism, his decision-making, all the things that make a good quarterback. We will certainly ride Caleb Lisbon. I mean, he's fantastic, one of the best running backs we've ever had. A 2-way starter for 2 years now. He just does it all. I mean, he can catch the ball in the backfield. He's a physical pass blocker. Certainly great runner with vision. He can finish. He can accelerate and beat people in the open field. And then he flips it over and plays safety at a very high level as well. So he's one of the best players we've had.
Maybe you see it a lot when you have kids from the same family, but we always are amazed when we watch. You watch him run that Wildcat, and he looks exactly like his brother.
Yeah.
It's amazing how similar a player they both are.
Yeah, they are. Jonah will tell you that Caleb's a little bit faster, more dynamic, but Jonah was a heck of a player as well. Jonah could throw a little bit better out of the Wildcat than Caleb, which we always tease him about. And then there's 2 more Lisbons on their way through the system
really?
as well in the midgets right now. So hopefully I'm still coaching by the time I get all 4 of them through the system. Obviously they're great kids.
So the off season and with kids growing and more experience, who aren't we talking about that we're going to learn about this year?
A lot of guys. Ethan Carr, quarterback, he played a lot last year. He moved from quarterback to receiver, but we used him in the Wildcat quite a bit. I think is a big-time football player. He's 6'2", and he can run. This is a guy who's going to get a ton of touches this year, and rightfully so. He returns kicks. He had a huge kick return in the playoff game against Peters Township. Guys like him, the twin brothers, Nate and Mason Fry, one will play receiver, one's a running back and safety. We expect big things out of those guys as well. Chase Vecchio, who's a receiver and defensive back, who we think is going to be really good. Noah Allen returns at receiver and corner. We have a number of guys who are going to make an impact. Sam Finelli is another kid who's going to be a running back. We're going to get him on the field some way. He's playing behind Caleb right now, but he's going to start at outside linebacker for us, and he's as good as anybody.
The key for you guys to starting fast, because obviously as you're talking about the schedule, that's going to be maybe the key to the season.
We aren't happy with the way we've played the last few years in our opener. Big game for us. It's a non-section game, but it's our arch rival Norwin. Our kids are excited to play it. I credit them for playing well. I don't think we've played our best, though. We're hopeful that we come out this year and kind of set the tone for the season in that game. And then right off the bat, our first conference game is Gateway, which is, another arch rival. And it's a great football team. Obviously, they beat us in the championship a couple years ago. They won the conference last year. And if you want to win this conference, you better win that game.
All right, that's Penn Trafford coach John Ruane. Good luck on the season ahead, and we'll see you in the second week of the season against Gateway in that big showdown game. Tom McIntyre is also with us from Mount Pleasant, defensive coordinator for the Vikings, and we're happy to be doing a Vikings game this year. Tom, I look at your program and progress over the last couple of years and where you guys started as a coaching staff and where you are now. How would you describe the progress in your program and where you feel that you are at this point?
And when you finish the season 2-8, everyone leaves with a bad taste in their mouth. 3 weeks after the season ended, we were in the middle of November. Our head coach, Jason Mignogna, and I said to the kids, hey, we're going to open up the weight room if anybody wants to come in. We had 30-some kids in the weight room that day. Those kids sent the message, and the senior leaders stepped up right away and said, things are going to be different, and we're going to take it from here. It doesn't matter that we're 2 weeks removed from a season. We're starting right now, and we're sending a different message. And that message has continued to develop to the point right now that their voices are being heard. I'll never underestimate that leadership right there after seeing what those kids have done. Jake Fazekas, Jake Johnson, Connor Provenzlik, 3 of our seniors, played some as sophomores, really contributed as juniors, and now they're not taking anything for granted their senior year. We're at the point now where the kids we have now are kind of removed from the 9-year stretch of playoff runs that we had, and they've been a part of it the last 2 years going into the season thinking we had a playoff team and not working out that way. And I think they know that we had to get better on both sides of the ball. We had to improve our special teams all around to get to where we wanted to be and to get to where we used to be. And when I started in Mount Pleasant, I was right in the middle of that playoff run. And getting to play teams in November like Beaver Falls and the Aliquippas, and those kids wanted to be a part of that games. I know Jake Fazekas was a ball boy when he was a little kid. Zach Sellinger, another senior we had, they were ball boys. They were at those games. And being a Viking and being a part of Viking football means a lot to those kids, and really appreciate and really excited about the energy that they've brought. The young kids look up to them, and they believe that this is the team that's going to start to get the Vikings back on the right track.
Tom, I make my way around weekly through the Mount Pleasant area, and you do have a big fan base. And I talked to a lot of people, and they're really excited about us on a game this year because there hasn't been any games on the radio with you guys for a while, and we want to try to get that family organized back again, put you guys on the schedule as much as we can. How important it is for your fans to come out and see how you guys are up and then you're down, and you still, it's almost like Jeanette, you still have that fan base no matter what.
It's a football town for sure. I actually grew up in the town next door that we're going to start off with week 0. And I always admired the tradition of Viking football. I'd go to their playoff games when our season ended and see, every seat in there packed, people standing outside the fence just to get in there and watch the game. The town still backs the team like that. We have great support all throughout the community. Obviously getting the team back on the winning track is really going to bring that back. Through the ups and downs, our community's been there. They backed us, and we do have people listen on the radio, people that can't make it, people that have moved. We talk to throughout the week. They're listening to our games. They're following us still. It's great to have that. The kids know it. They feel it. Friday nights, it's a great venue to have a football game.
If you make this a turnaround year, what's going to be the biggest reason for that? Where are your strengths right now as you're going into this season?
We have to be a team. We have to be better on both sides of the ball and special teams, like I said, but we're going to win. The way we're going to win games is by doing it as a team. Our kids might not have the best 40 times. We might not have the highest bench press anybody else's kids that are in here, but we have, on both sides of the ball, we have 11 tough kids that are going to go out and give us all they got every play. And some of those seniors that I mentioned, they've played as sophomores, they've played as juniors. Jake Fazekas is a sophomore, played at maybe 145 pounds, and he's our tight end inside linebacker. He's about a 200-pound kid now, and that didn't happen by accident. His work ethic and what he's done in the weight room has been outstanding. And on the other end of that, Connor Provenzlik, our senior offensive lineman, was a bigger kid, and he actually cut weight this season. And seeing him move in camp, he's like a different kid. He's fast, he's strong, and everything you want an offensive lineman to be. And he's setting the tone, and the other linemen are now kind of competing to keep up with him. Ian Fasano is another offensive lineman. He's a junior lineman that played as a freshman and as a sophomore. Same way. Fought a shoulder injury last year, and he's coming into this season. I mean, he's a difference maker. Same as Connor. They're big kids, but they're at a good weight. They're fast. They're strong, and they move like tight ends. They move like H-backs. And we have a junior quarterback stepping in for the first time, Asher O'Connor, who played some defense for us last year. He's just a kid. He's like a sponge. Everything that we teach him, everything we coach him, he listens to everything. He improves himself each day. We're a young team, but at the same time, we're an experienced team. A lot of kids, like I said, because of the injuries, were forced into play last year, maybe before they were ready to. They were kids that going into the season thought they'd be playing on Saturdays, and by October, they're playing every Friday night. For those kids, the lights aren't going to be as bright anymore for them this year. They know they've been through the pregame routine. They've been through the battles with these other kids, and they're ready. Our sophomores and juniors, if you just stepped on the field right now and kind of saw, we just had our captain vote this week, and we had sophomores and juniors getting some votes, because I don't even honestly know that some of the younger kids know who's a junior, who's a senior, who's a sophomore, because some of the sophomores and juniors have taken such a leadership role, not only vocally, but by what they do on the field and what they've seen them do in the weight room, that they're kids that they look up to and kids that set the right example.
Great. That's Tom McIntyre, defensive coordinator for the Mount Pleasant Vikings. We're looking forward to seeing the Vikings later on this season as they'll host North Catholic on September 27th. That'll be here on WHJB. It's the Collision Shop by Jason Mignogna, high school football preview show. Mike Zappone, Jimmy Lee Santorella here this night before the opening of the high school football season, week 0. As always, we started off with the Greensburg-Salem Hempfield game. This year it's at Spartan Stadium. Rich Bowen and Dave Kiefer join us. Rich Bowen, the head coach at Hempfield, Dave, the head coach of Greensburg-Salem. I don't know, rumor has it you like a second scrimmage maybe than playing a week 0 game, Rich, but at the same time I know you enjoy playing the game as well when it's out.
Yeah, I'm old school. Like I said, I've been doing this a long time, and I don't think 1 week's enough time to get a team ready to play. You need that first scrimmage, work out the kinks the next week, then prepare for the game. It's too fast. It's a great game to play. I mean, the local communities get involved. We have a nice crowd. It's a great night for the kids, the band, the cheerleaders, the fans, and I think our kids enjoy playing against each other. They know each other. It's a local rival. It's a friendly rivalry, but it's, we want to win. Dave wants to win, but in lieu of a second scrimmage, this is the best thing we could do.
Now you get week 1, you get PT Norwin, you get Greensburg Hempfield. For Westmoreland County football, just as we look at it as a group together, how important are these kinds of games to still at least have those week 0 opportunities to have those cross-section types of games?
To be honest with you, that's probably, kind of taking off what Richie said, that's probably why we do it, to be honest with you. I think, just like he said, there's a lot of benefits to being able to just do a second scrimmage, being able to control it. The good thing to the game is you're being able to not be able to control the situations. You're putting your kids in situations they have to respond and react, and that's the name of the football game, is being able to, react in certain situations. But I think that's why you play the game. I think both Rich and I could make a case for why it's a scrimmage. But I think we also both recognize that it's these kind of games that kids value, and we encourage kids to continue to come out and play the sport, but without some of these kind of games, you're not saying the kids are playing because of the game, but it's a nice little chip on the table for them to be able to want to go out and play against a rival team next door. When you go down our schedules, both Rich and I, both of our schedules, outside of a handful of games, you're not playing within a half hour.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have any other games other than a handful that are less than a half hour away. I mean, the majority of our games are an hour and a half away. And a lot of people in the communities aren't happy with that. You talk to a lot of people in the Greensburg community. I know the Hempfield community is the same way. Why don't we just play Westmoreland County schools? And they probably could make a case for that. And I think that's probably why we do play the game more than anything. When we talk about, and Greg said it earlier, we care about the kids. We want the kids, the experiences about the kids and not about us. So I think that's the biggest reason we play the sport. And I think it's the biggest reason why you have to have the the Latrobe Dairy game, the Greensburg Hempfield game, the PT Norwin games. Those still keep that competitive spirit alive within our communities and really kind of, give an excitement for the season.
I feel bad for our kids. Just to go on what Dave said, we play Greensburg, we play Norwin. Everybody else replays the North Hills, South Hills, hour and a half way to games. Our fans travel well. I mean, Hempfield, whether we're 3-7, 1-9, 7-3, 8, our fans go. But we play some games at home from the teams from the North Hills, and they're lucky to bring 50 people. Mm-hmm. And it's just not what high school football is about. We should be playing Greensburg, Latrobe, Connellsville, Kissimmee. Yeah, right. We should be in our local community. Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I've been doing this a long time, and I do not enjoy. I enjoy 6A football. It's great football, but there's no rivalries. We get 2 games a year where our kids know each other, and that's what it's supposed to be. So,
when I was in school, 74, I graduated. 73, we won the Foothills Conference, and that conference that year, our furthest games that we played was still Westmoreland County, Valley and Kiski, but we had Latrobe, Hempfield, Derry. We were right in our county, and that's what, man, crowds are everywhere in those days.
Well, we'll see what the Whitfield's going to do with this new realignment. Hopefully something
and on the
happens.
flip side of that, there's games that you look at growing up in Mount Pleasant, there were a lot of great rivals with the Mount Pleasants, the Derrys, the Southmorlands, the Yawks, and those have even dissipated. For Mount Pleasant, when you look at their schedule, and you look at Rich's schedule, and you look at mine, they're just really scattered. And I think, people always want to know why kids aren't playing, and I'm not saying that's the reason they're not playing, but it also adds to the fact that there has to be an excitement created within the game. And, the environment of the football atmosphere that Rich and I are able to be involved with this game is really what it's about. And I think sometimes that doesn't discourage kids, but it doesn't encourage kids either. And I think we got to try to find ways to create an excitement and make it valuable to the kids. So, those rivalries are really, really important.
I think when I look at these two teams going into this game, one thing that we look at is both teams return a lot of kids from squads last year that played a lot better in the second half of the season. I mean, you guys made a run into the playoffs. Got into the playoffs. You were playing much better football by the second half of the season. Where are your programs both at right now, based off of what you bring back and also the way you finished strong last year?
Well, I think it was valuable. We played everybody tough. We had maybe one bummer game the whole year, really, where we did not play well against Mount Leba. But that was after a stretch of hard games, and we were banged up. So I give our kids credit. We hung together. We got we have probably 18, 20 starters back. We got almost everybody back. Some of them are going to be 3-year starters. So, we're confident in what we have. The kids have worked hard. I think the way we finished sets up this year. But again, we also know the schedule we have coming up against us. A lot of those teams might have graduated a lot, but it doesn't matter. In North Allegheny might graduate 20 starters, but they got 30 more ready to play. Yeah. It's just a cycle for them. Typically, we're not like that. But I love our team. I love our kids. It's a great group of kids, and I think that's what makes coaching fun. I enjoy going out on the practice field every day with them. We don't have any attitudes. The kids are all good kids. So it's just enjoyable. Whatever the season holds for us, which I think can be a successful one, I just know I have great kids who work hard.
And I'll add to that. I mean, we have a lot of comparisons in both of our teams. I don't think I'm bringing about quite as many back as what Rich has now that he states that. That's great to hear. I think we bring 6 or 7 kids back on both sides of the football. A lot of those might be the same kids. We may bring 10 or 11 back, played a substantial amount, where Richie has a couple more because he's able to kind of split them up. He said a lot of the same things that I could say. I mean, you look at the group of kids we have, it truly is enjoyable to go on the field. We have 40 kids. Our numbers aren't quite what we'd like them to be, and I don't think anybody would sit here as we went through this roundtable and say the numbers are what they want them to be. We have such a great group of kids. I think we have very comparable teams, and the personalities of the players, you don't have to beg them for effort, and that's one of our big lines. If we have to ask you for effort, if we're coaching your effort, then we're not able to coach the scheme. So there's been very little time spent on coaching that effort, and that's what makes it really, really enjoyable as a staff to be able to go out on the field, and the effort that you're asking for them is not begging it for effort, and there's a genuine interest in wanting to be successful.
Another similarity, you bring back quarterbacks who have started a full season now. Blake Ramaley at Hempfield and Trent Patrick at Greensburg Salem. Tell me about where those guys are.
Well, Blake's moved him up as a freshman. So he's been with me for 4 years. Nice year last year. Played with his second shoulder injury. So he held off surgery last year until the end of the season, which a lot of people don't know. He played the entire season with a shoulder that needed surgery. Wow. It was his off shoulder. And I can't say enough about him. He's had a great summer. He's looked great in the 7-on-7s. He's taken a leadership role. What I like about it in practice, he's not putting the ball on the ground. He's making the right reads. He's doing a nice job. I think he's going to have a great season. We do have a good line. How good it can be, we'll see. I'm not going to say they're a great line yet, but I think they have the potential to be that because we got Fenton Brose coming back, who's already committed to Delaware, and he's a great two-way lineman. Ryan Cross, another 3-year starter at center. Cole Graham, Dylan Ferretti, Paul Knoll, all good players. And Sean Knight, too, a junior, 6'4", 235. So these kids have really bought into the weight room. All those kids bench over 300 pounds. They're strong. But then we have 3 good running backs, Mario Perkins, Nathan Roby, and Demetrius Murphy, who I think is a sleeper. But we're going to move Roby into some slot situations and do some things with him there and get him the ball a little bit more outside. We are looking maybe change a little bit more to running the football.
We started talking about the quarterbacks, so let's talk about Trent.
Yeah.
And some of the skill players.
I think you can say a lot of the same things, about Blake. I think the one thing I see in both both of them is they're both great competitors. Neither one of those kids like to lose, and the type of people they are in terms of being ultra competitors and transfers over to leadership, and that competitive spirit is very contagious, and that's the thing we like about Trent. Trent's a tough kid too. He's a wrestler. He's qualified for the state wrestling tournament, and he's a kid that we play Indiana. He separates his shoulder when we come back in South Fayette. He separates his throwing shoulder and breaks his clavicle. And he texts me in the middle of the night, "Hey, I have to go to the ER." He never said a word after the game, and that's just the type of kid he is. He's just physically a tough, strong kid that just has really good characteristics to him as a person as well as a leader. So I think he can have another great year. He threw about for 1,000 yards last year and ran for probably around 400 or 500 yards. So he accumulated almost 1,500 yards of offense.
Where's the relief come from for him in the running game? Where do you find the balance?
Well, we have Aaron Pott. Aaron's a 3-year starter at tailback, and we're going to do the same thing. Just like Roby over at Hempfield, we think Aaron has pretty good talents and pretty good skill sets that we don't want to just put, tack him behind the quarterback. So we want to be able to get him out in space and do some of the things we do with our spread stuff and still be able to get him the ball on our jet stuff. I mean, there's no secret what we do. Like Rich said, he'll watch just as much film on me as what I will on him. So we have a young man who's a junior who I think is going to be a pretty good football player, in Alex Briggs. Aaron can still bump back in. Then we have another junior in J.C. Wallace that's been doing a nice job working in. I don't know if they're quite, they're to the point. His guys are pretty well tenured and experienced, but I think Alex can be a pretty good player, and I think he can have a pretty good senior year, or pretty good junior year, and take a little bit of the burden off of Trent's shoulders of having to run the ball downhill so often is what Trent does.
You got some playmakers, particularly at linebacker on both of your teams. So where does the step forward come both sides of the football, both teams, Hempfield and Greensburg Salem, when it comes to the defensive side of things?
Well, we like our front seven. We do, like Greg Watt, I was talking earlier. We feel that's the strength of our defense. Obviously, the offensive line transfers over to defense.
Sure.
So, those guys play both ways. So we have to see where we fit in with some of those kids yet. We're not sure who's going to start where yet. But Dylan Ferretti at linebacker is just phenomenally good. He'll be playing in his third game against you guys, and Dylan is just an outstanding kid. Another wrestler. I think he wrestles.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's ironic because both him and Trent are linebackers, and they're wrestling. I think they wrestled off in the county.
Yeah, I think they might have went two and been 1-on-1 against each other or something. But
so they know each other well on both.
And that's the nice thing about this. Those kids respect each other. Dylan, over 100 tackles both years. Tough kid, plays some offense for us too. Just tremendous athlete. We'll see the secondary is a work in progress, but it's getting better. And we have some starters back there. We're changing some things we do back there, but we're confident in those guys. And that's where we've needed to improve.
And over on your side of the ball, you got Jalen Page at linebacker.
Yeah, Jalen actually, we feel he's, with and we're in the same boat again as what Rich is. We lost 4 of our 5 secondary people in terms of how we played in our shell. So, and moved Jalen back to safety. We have another sophomore in Hayden Tesco who's been repping at the other safety. And then Logan Smith's another senior to be working at the other corner, and as well as a couple other guys that, like Rich said, it's a work in progress. So we have Ryan Thomas and Kevin Trout that are actually returners that are going to be playing inside, as well as Trent, and then we have a young kid, Jaden Stevens, that we think is a sophomore. It's going to be a pretty good player. But, just like Rich said, with his front guys, we flip them over onto the defensive side, and it's trying to figure out, they usually have a good rotation of 7 or 8 defensive linemen that they're able to roll through, and that's been a big factor in the outcome of our games. When we get into the third and fourth quarters, and it's the same scenarios we run in our conference against the Thomas Jeffersons and the South Fayettes. They start rolling guys through, and this is where numbers do start to show themselves, where you don't have 7 or 8 guys to roll through, and you're flipping guys back and forth, and you just start getting gassed as the game goes on. So, we feel pretty comfortable. We got 8 guys or 7 guys we feel really comfortable with the possibility of 8, seeing how one works out, that I think can be pretty good football players. A guy that we think is going to be a good football player is Billy McChesney, who's a sophomore. The word to best describe Billy is relentless. He is absolutely relentless. And we have a couple other guys that have played an awful lot. Colin Pasco played a lot for us on the defensive line, and it's how well they want to play and how good they want to be, and the same thing Rich is looking at. So we are very comparable in a lot of ways, but the reality of it is I think we got 7 guys that we can, even potentially an 8, depending on how it works out, that we can get rolling on our defensive line. It's no secret. Neither one of us are hiding anything here. We know each other well enough.
Well, that's what rivalries are. That's what I talked about earlier. I know his kids, he knows ours. We all know each other, and that's what it should be.
Well, we're certainly looking forward to watching both these programs take another step forward this year. 6:30 is the airtime for pregame. 7 o'clock is the kickoff over at Spartan Stadium. It'll be Greensburg Salem Hempfield to start things off for the 2020 season. Thanks again to all the coaches who joined us this evening, and of course also to Dave Kiefer and Rich Bowen for staying in till the end with us here. Jimmy Lee's going to give you your wake-up calls in the morning, so we'll make sure that you get to practice and you don't have any issues. We're looking forward to a great 2020 season, Jimmy.
Tomorrow night, it starts off with my 30th season.
You hit a milestone every year.
Yeah.
Well, you count the games, you count the years, and then every year every week you have another milestone.
I hope you're not like Greg Body. He's been retiring for 7 years. Every time I talk to him, he's retired.
I don't plan on retiring yet.
Thanks to everybody for joining us tonight. Thank you as well. We're looking forward to talking to you all over the course of the season on our Friday night football games here on WHJB. This has been the Collision Shop by Jason Mignogna, high school football preview show. We'll talk to you again tomorrow night from Hempfield.
Red 18, hot.
107.1 WHJB. The Collision Shop by Jason Mignogna's high school football preview show. Brought to you by The Collision Shop by Jason Mignogna, by Car Care One, Roundhouse Pizza, also by The Stereo Shop, by Allied Milk Producers, Apple Ridge Stone, Benoni and Company, by Stanwood Area Federal Credit Union, also by Excella Health and the Nutrition Group. The preceding has been a special sports presentation of Random Broadcasting and 107.1 WHJB.